Alright guys, so I gave you these sourdough starters yesterday, and this one really didn't do anything until like the last 2 hours. I think it was because my house was too cold, which is a wonderful problem to have. But you can see like I'm starting to get some bubbles there. And then you can see on the bottom we're starting to get some bubbles. So I also had some thoughts about why it might not be doing super well. One, plastic is not ideal. Things will do much better in glass. And two, when I have had lots of success, it's been in a tall jar like this. So like if you look at this guy here, you can see that it's got lots of bubbles going on. It hasn't quite peaked yet, which means it'll keep going a little higher, but like you can see, lots of bubbles visible in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and feed this one, and then I'm gonna put it in a jar instead of in the plastic and kind of see what happens with that. I have my scale here. I turned it. I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see numbers, but you can kind of see my process. Since this one is a little sleepy, it's not really responding how I want, I'm gonna try to give it a boost. So I'm gonna use some whole wheat flour in with the mixture that I'm putting in there. You can do that. I don't usually do all whole wheat flour, but the ones that I gave y'all yesterday, you can see the brown flecks in there. That is from the whole wheat flour. Okay, so before you actually start, it's good to have everything ready so you don't have to like keep stopping and starting. So like I said, I have my jar. I put mine in a clean jar every feed. So I have like 6 of these jars. All I do now. I went and bought some more yesterday, but anyway, I get these in the craft section at Walmart. They don't have the wide mouth ones in the big boxes usually. I do keep an eye out though, because when they do, I'm gonna buy one. But anyway, I like the wide mouth. This is a 32 ounce jar. Yeah, and then I also have my flour. Remember I said I'm gonna throw a little bit of this one at it this time. I have the starter that I'm gonna feed. I have some room temperature water, and I have a bowl. So the bowl is what I'm gonna use on my scale. So before I turn the scale on, I wanna put the bowl on so that it'll zero out. Yeah, you guys definitely can't see the numbers on there. Right now it says 0 because it's not counting the bowl. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is pour some of the starter in there. So one of the things I noticed with these that have more surface area open to air is it can get a little bit of a skin on the top, and if it does, you can pull that off, but this one didn't. So I'm gonna try to put no more than 150 grams in here, just because I know that's about how much the jar can handle. And I'm gonna do 1 to 1 to 1. While I'm doing this, I'm gonna turn this around since y'all can't see it anyway. While I was reading last night, I've been doing 1 to 1 to 1 the whole time because I have a scale. But as it turns out, if you don't have a scale and you're using like a measuring cup, it's supposed to be 1 part starter, 1 part water, and 2 parts flour. So like if you did 1/3 of a cup, or I was using a 1/2 cup as an example yesterday, so I'll stick with that. If you did a 1/2 cup of starter, you would want to do a whole cup of flour and a 1/2 cup of room temperature water. But the scale makes life so much easier because you can just put it in here. Let's see, that's what I said I wanted. So this extra part that I'm not going to use in the starter is what we call the discard. And usually you'll have more than what I have right now because I didn't give you guys like a ton. But you can see how it's like really elasticy and kind of floppy. That's a good thing. When it's got lots of bubbles in it, like when this one peaks, if I were to take some out to use it, it'll be cool looking when you take it out because it'll be that stringy texture, but also have lots of like holes in it. It looks fun. Anyway, so I have 140 grams in here, which is a nice even number that I like. So you can do this a couple of different ways. If you like numbers, you can just leave it going. Like I know if I have 140 here and I want 140 more, I'll stop at 280. Or you can hit the tare button, T-A-R-E, and it'll take it back down to 0. That's the foolproof way to do it. You can't mess up on your math if you don't do it. So I did 40 grams of whole wheat, and then I'm gonna do the other 100 of bread flour. So again, I started with 140. I'm gonna go back up to 140. Almost there. There we go. Just a smidge over. Okay, so then the last thing I need to add is my room temperature water. So I'm gonna hit tare again. It takes me up to the total. Push it again, it takes me back down to 0. And I'm gonna pour until I get to 140. I will say water can be tricky. You wanna pour slow, and then as you get close, just do tiny little bits. See, like I just went over just now, because I was talking. You can always just scoop a little bit out, doesn't hurt anything. All right, so this should be perfect. So now we just stir it up. It's a little bit weird at first because you got that stringy starter in there and the dry flour and the splashy water. So just go slow and stir. It'll kind of turn into a shaggy dough. And that is probably kind of where we'll leave it. Sometimes it comes together a little bit more and it'll be kind of like cookie dough-ish. You don't want it to be runny like pancake batter. It should be nice and thick. I'll kind of show you when this is finished. Almost there. So I started out with 140 grams and then I added 280. So I should be at 420 grams-ish right now. That's quite a bit more. I mean, it tripled in size. So you can see it's nice and thick. It's not soupy. That's what you want. And then you're just gonna pour it in your jar. Remember, like I was telling, I think I told all y'all yesterday that you don't want the jar to be more than 1/3 of the way full because it can grow 2 to 3 times its size. And with that cheesecloth on the top to keep the flies or gnats or whatever out, you don't want it to touch, because then cleaning the cheesecloth is hard and weird, and it gets like a hard layer over the top anywhere that it sits on the cheesecloth. The other thing I'm going to tell you, I just started doing this recently. When you get it on the jar like that, it like turns into cement, which it will also do in your drains if you put this stuff down your drains. So anyway, I just try to go around with a wet paper towel and get as much of that off as I can so that I don't have to scrub so much later, because the dishwasher doesn't take it off. The Mr. Clean power wash takes it off pretty good. You can soak it. But anyway, the other thing that I was telling y'all that you might want to do is to use a rubber band or a marker to mark where it is when it starts. So that would be like where my starter is right now, but that way it's easy to tell how much it grew. It's actually a little bit high. It looks like it's below the starter now, but it's not because there's just some on the jar. Anyway, then you just cover it up and you move on. So what this does is it pulls yeast out of the air, and it uses that to feed all that good bacteria, and then it like grows as it eats, and then as it gets hungry it'll deplete. And when you have it in the refrigerator, it'll deplete all the way down back to like baseline when you put it in there, but it'll have that liquid on the top that's called hooch. And the hooch is actually a good thing as long as it doesn't have any pink in it. Remember, pink is the devil. And then you just stir that in and feed it, because when it gets that liquid, it means it's hungry. And that liquid can be on the top, in the middle, or at the bottom, but it's usually like all in a layer. But anyway, that's it, y'all. And then this just sits on the counter. You can also, if you need it to grow a little bit faster, leave it on the counter for a little bit so it picks up some of that yeast, but then you can put it in your oven and hit proof if you have that as an option, or you can just turn your light on, and that gives it a little bit more of like a tropical warm type environment, and it'll grow a little faster. But that's it, y'all. If it's on your counter, feed it every day. If it's going slow, you can feed it as much as every 12 hours. Just don't, if that's happening over and over, then you might have something you need to like work on. You can message me or call me. If you're putting it in the refrigerator, you want to let it bubble up a little bit before you put it in there, and then it can be in there for a week and feed it once a week, just like I fed this. You can use that discard, that stuff that we took out that was extra, for pancakes. I used it for chocolate chip cookies. You can use it for English muffins. You can always toss it, just don't put it down the drain. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you that you absolutely can't do. But I did link some of those Facebook pages that I learned a lot of things from. There's a lot of helpful people on there if you guys have questions. Anyway, just let me know if you need anything.